Fletcher, Chief Growth Officer at Cypress North. We're a digital agency in Buffalo, New York, and you're listening to the Agency Scoop. Each episode, I'll tackle a specific topic from an agency point of view. We're going to talk about what's helping us grow, challenges that we face, how we're working with our clients, and even things that bring us joy. Welcome to this month's episode of the Agency Scoop. So today, before we get started with our interview, I wanted to talk a little bit about onboarding new employees. So something we've been doing quite a bit of lately is we've hired a lot of people here in the past few months. And every single time that we do it, I feel like I get a little bit better at it and I learn a few other things that we could improve upon. So as I've been kind of creating these checklists and going through this onboarding process, I wanted to share it with all of you and see if you had any ideas or suggestions or things that you could tell me that you do in your agencies to help the onboarding process go smoother. So before someone starts, I have an email template that I use where I tell them about our start and end times, our kind of flexible hours policy, what we do for lunch, making sure that people know like you can bring your lunch, you can leave, whatever you need to know about that. The parking situation at our office and which door to go in, as well as the dress code, all of the things that people tend to have questions about before they actually start. You don't want them to come and be surprised about, oh, I'm wearing a full suit and everyone here is wearing jeans. So I try to let people know ahead of time what to expect in that first day, just from an office culture environment. And then I try to let them know what to expect the first week from a training perspective and put together a document of everything that they'll need to know, for those trainings. And then I also schedule introductory meetings with everyone else in the group. So being an agency of only about 25 people right now, it's easy for us to all get to know each other organically, but as we grow, it hasn't been as easy. So, we used to do one-on-one meetings where the new person would meet everybody individually, and that got a little bit repetitive, a little tiring, especially if someone is starting remotely and they're doing Zoom meetings with 25 people. So what I try to do is set up meetings with the new person and 3 to 4 other people so they can all have kind of a group conversation, get to know each other as, here's who I am personally. I have kids, or I like to go hiking, all sorts of things like that, so that they get to know each other a little bit more personally than just working on a project together. And more often than not, even the people who have been working together for a long time learn something about each other in those meetings. So I think they're always a lot of fun. Also, in the initial onboarding, I typically set up a meeting with the new person to talk about our company values, our pillars, and what we really look for in people and what is necessary in the job that they have. Also, I go through how we work with clients, how we make money from clients, the different types of contracts we have, and each team and how they work with each other and with clients to kind of set the stage, especially as we have a lot of entry-level people or interns that start with us. I want to make sure they understand kind of how an agency operates and how we do things here. And then I go through all of the different tools that we use. So we use Google Docs and Google Mail, Google Calendar. I came from a place that we used all Microsoft things. So when I came into Google Docs, even though it wasn't a huge learning curve, I still had to understand how to share things with people, where to save them, how to make it accessible, or how to comment on those types of documents. So I go through that and make sure that everyone's comfortable with what they're using. We also use Slack, ClickUp, talk through all of those, and just make sure everyone knows kind of how to use those common tools that everyone will be communicating with. I also talk through our policies, so how to request PTO, what to do if you need to work from home, anything like that, and make sure that they kind of understand baseline what they need to do for any of those types of things. So along the way, I've kind of learned a few tips or tricks that I keep in my back pocket when we're starting new people. So if you're hiring multiple people, it is great to start them together on the first day if you can. First of all, they have a built-in buddy. So they have someone that's going through it too that's new. They're not the only newbie in the house. And second, it reduces the time in those meetings and trainings for everyone else on your staff that's going to be a part of it. So it saves everyone a lot of time and gets that camaraderie going, from the beginning. So if people are thinking of starting maybe a week apart, if you can put those two together, it makes everyone's lives a lot easier. I also found recently that I like starting people on a Tuesday or a Wednesday instead of on a typical Monday start of the week. And that's a little more selfish for our current people, because when you come into work for the week, you're getting yourself situated, you're organizing yourself for the week ahead. And a lot of times if a new person is starting, you have to drop your normal routine to do other things. So having them start on a Tuesday or Wednesday gives that little bit of buffer time to get ready for them to come in, get anything prepared that you need to train them on or brief them on, anything like that. Also, I try to make sure that I'm checking in throughout the week with that new person, see how they're doing, see if they need anything or if they have any questions. A lot of times, especially with people who this might be their first office position, their first real job out of college, they might feel shy about asking questions about, who do I turn my paperwork into? Or I'm having a problem with my keyboard or anything like that. So I like to check in with people and just make sure that they're feeling comfortable, let them know that I'm here if they have any questions at all. And then I try to set up, within that first week, I set up a time for about a month from then to do a 30-day check-in. See what their goals are now that they're acclimated, see how they're feeling about the position, anything that surprised them or that they didn't really realize going in that they like or dislike, and get feedback in our onboarding and training program and see where we can do better and keep improving it. So those are some of the things that I have learned over the past several months of bringing in new people consistently and trying to onboard them into the agency. We're still working on, getting more professional training videos and getting a more structured training program, as well as working on a handbook or guide for our employees so that we can have somewhere where all of those things are, the tips and tricks of using Slack or Google Calendar, all the things that I go through in the onboarding me. I'd love to have a document somewhere that I can give to people that they can refer back to. So those are things that I'm trying to work on in the next few months. But I'd love to hear from all of you and what you do when you have a new employee. If there's something special that you do to welcome them in or to help them get acclimated, I'd love to hear your ideas and the things that you put into action. All right, so today we have a special guest, Irene Muchai, who is the Business Development Director at Online Optimism, which is a digital agency based in New Orleans. They actually have a few different offices, but their headquarters are in New Orleans, where Irene is. And Irene grew up in London, England, and moved to America just a few years ago in 2018. And so she used to work in the e-commerce branch of a major retailer before switching to the agency side. And now she helps bring new clients into her agency as well as help them with their strategic planning. And so when she reached out and we got connected, I was like, this will be great because I love talking about strategic planning. I love talking about new business development and agency. And so I think we had a lot of great conversation and that you'll learn a lot from this Q&A. Welcome to this month's episode of the Agency Scoop. My guest today is Irene Muchai, the Business Development Director at Online Optimism. Thank you so much for coming to the show today, Irene.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. So why don't you tell us a little bit about you and your background?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually grew up in London, England. I graduated with a degree in philosophy, very different to what I'm doing right now. But I started working in an e-commerce marketing department of a major electronics retailer. So I basically oversaw the sales of one of the departments on the e-commerce side. And so that kind of built me up to learn more about, online marketing. So things like SEO, SEM, affiliate marketing, all different types. And so it really exposed me to learning what those different areas were about. And I think all of that knowledge has kind of passed along to the role that I'm in today.
Great. So can you tell us a little bit about Online Optimism as an agency? How big are you? What do you specialize in? All of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So Online Optimism is a creative digital marketing agency. We currently have 18 full-time employees as well as 7 interns who we call specialists. We actually expanded quite a bit during COVID, which is unusual to hear of. We started in New Orleans, but now we have offices in Atlanta and DC, and we have some remote employees as well. We actually specialize in a number of different digital marketing methods. So anything from search engine optimization, so getting our clients to rank #1 on Google, to search engine marketing, so running Google Ads. We also do web design, we do video production, social media. We're doing everything from LinkedIn to TikTok. So it's really, really a wide range. And I think that makes us a little bit different to other agencies, is having all of that under one roof. So we can run like TikTok campaigns for Amazon products, while also running SEO for cybersecurity companies, while also designing websites for new building constructions. So there's really a lot going on, and we have clients in so many different industries. And another thing I think makes us a little bit different is that we don't actually have anyone who's solely an account executive. All of our strategists work on the accounts and also talk to clients at the same time. So we think that really helps with communication with our clients. And that's one of the reasons why our clients enjoy working with us so much, is because they can get a really in-depth look into their campaigns and speak to the people who's working on their campaigns directly.
Yeah, that seems really similar to Cypress North. I think we have a lot of similarities there. We have all of our account managers also work in the campaigns and speak directly to the clients. We don't, we just recently hired our first project manager this year to help with more of the development and creative projects. But we have a kind of lean model where you're speaking directly with the people doing the work, which is great. So.
Yeah, it's awesome. I think it helps our clients as well.
For sure, for sure. So you lead the agency's new business development efforts. That's what I do as well, which I think is why we connected. But what are some of your main new business strategies? How do you prospect for the agency?
Yeah, so there's been 3 main ones that I think has been super successful. So SEO has been really successful for us. We spend quite a lot of time. We have a content and SEO team in-house as well. So we spend quite a lot of time making sure that we are ranking really well for keywords related to the services that we provide. And we do find that a lot of leads do just search us on Google and then, click on one of the top organic search results, which typically, hopefully, is us. And then once they reach out to us, it's pretty much a go from there. So there's SEO, and we also list ourselves in a number of different directories. So anything from like Clutch, UpCity, Design Rush, a number of different ones. And those are really, really helpful to make sure that, when people are searching for agencies, they want to go to someone that's trusted. And most of the times these directories are trusted source, and people do find them to be very valuable. And so making sure that we're listed in those directories and we have our portfolio up to date with new case studies and everything like that has been super helpful too. Again, we've been around for 10 years, so referrals has been really, really great for us. New Orleans specifically is quite small. And so people kind of know everybody, I like to say that in New Orleans, you're kind of 3 degrees of separation from anyone, really. So sometimes you do meet someone in one industry and they know somebody else in the same industry and they refer us to them. Like last night, I just went to a networking event and someone I met was actually very close friends with one of our clients in the same industry. And so that's how you kind of end up connecting with people really quite easily, based on the fact that New Orleans is a small city. And so we do bump into each other quite a lot. So in Atlanta, it's always exciting to be able to say you've worked with so many people in an industry and be able to showcase that there too.
What types of industries are your bread and butter? What's your sweet spot with industries?
Yeah, so one of the sweet spots that we have, and this kind of depends on departments actually, but one of the ones that we have found, especially with our digital ads department, is professional services and home services. So things like, for example, we have a plumbing client, things like HVAC clients and things like that. We find them to be really good clients, because when people are searching for these services, they need really quick results and they need them right away. So for example, if your drain was to burst right now, you probably search on Google and the first result, you're probably going to call them up and be like, hey, I need you right now. And so that typically works quite well for Google Ads, and we find a lot of successes there. For our SEO department, they are real technical writers. And so industries such as medical industries or like cybersecurity industries works really well for our team, because we are quite well versed in those different areas. With web design, it really, really depends, because, websites are needed for any industry and for any type of client. So we've built websites for schools, we've built websites for restaurants. Of course, restaurants is a big industry in New Orleans, so that's definitely up there. But yeah, it's definitely a big range.
Oh, great. So when you have a new business pitch or someone that you're working on a proposal for, what is your process at the agency for that?
Yeah, so we have quite a lot of internal processes to make sure we're well organized. And one of the first things we'll do is some preliminary research into the potential client, just to see what they're currently doing online and give us a basis to kind of gauge what kind of questions we should be asking when we get to the discovery meeting. Once we have that discovery meeting, we ask a bunch of questions to give us a bit more background as to what they're doing, what their goals are, what they're looking for. We then discuss with our team what avenues we think are best to achieve those goals. Sometimes clients will come to us with a set of goals, and basically our goal is to try and figure out, okay, which marketing strategy is going to be best based on the goals you mentioned. We'll then put together a pitch, so a proposal deck. This can include mock-ups and things like that, just showing them types of ideas that we're thinking about, as well as some analytics analysis as well. We do want to show that we did take a custom approach to what we're presenting for them, and it will have pricing and all that kind of stuff. And then we pitch it to them, and then hopefully we win the pitch, and that'll be great. But sometimes we do have to catch up with them and do some revisions and things like that based on their needs and their goals.
Do you have a set team that does that with you, or do you pick people based on who you think might work on the account if it comes in?
So we have a set team. So like I mentioned, I run the business development team. So I have myself and a couple of others that I work with who makes these proposals and runs these proposal meetings and discovery meetings and all that. Sometimes we will bring in people from outside of our team to discuss the strategy. So for example, if we're selling something that's new or something that we might not have as much experience in, but one of our directors does, then I might speak to them to be like, hey, is this a good strategy? Do you think this would work for this particular client? Additionally, we do want to make sure that our directors are happy with the types of strategies that we're putting forward to the client. So what we don't want to happen is we sell what we think to be a really great strategy and a really great presentation, and then we make them a client, and then the director of whichever department is going to be taking it on isn't happy with the strategy that we put forward. So we just want to make sure there's clear communication between whatever the lead needs and whatever our team is able, capable, and willing to do.
Right. That's good. It's good to have collaboration in that process because, like you said, you don't want to bring something in and then the people working on it aren't happy with you.
Exactly.
So I know we talked a little bit about the industries that you work in with each department, but what types of clients are the best fit for your agency? What do you look for in a client?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I mentioned, there's a bunch of different industries, but what we really want to look for is clients that are communicative and proactive and have a really clear vision of what they want for their campaigns. It can be difficult sometimes if you have a client who isn't really communicative because you're not getting the feedback you need to be able to run those campaigns successfully. We want to have clients who are open to collaboration, excited to try new strategies and change strategies if things aren't working so well. The whole point that we always mention, even when we're in the proposal meeting, is that feedback and communication is so important, and we cannot run these campaigns without our clients. And we do mention that from the very beginning that they are going to have to be involved. Obviously, we're going to be doing the bulk of the work, but we want to make sure we are representing their brand in a way that's, representative of what they're looking for.
Mm-hmm. I like that. I know one of the things that we talk about are the people that not just are communicative, but that they have the power to make decisions.
Yes.
It's really hard to have a client where the only person you're interfacing with is kind of the go-between, and the person who really holds the purse strings or makes decisions is someone you haven't met, or you don't know what they're really thinking, and you just have kind of somebody feeding you that information, but you don't know if it's accurate or what matters to that person.
And we mention that to our clients as well. We need to, whoever's the key stakeholder in those meetings to make sure once they say yes, we're good to go and we can start working on the campaign in that way. Yeah.
So what are your greatest challenges right now from a new business perspective?
I think one of the main challenges that we often come across is trying to match up what the potential client wants compared to what they actually need. So sometimes a potential client will come to us and say, hey, we want to start, social media management or something like that. But that might not necessarily be the right strategy for them based on the goals that they have. And so sometimes having to try to convince them, hey, you don't need social media. What you really need is SEO, for example, can be really tough. And so sometimes we do go into quite a lot of analytics and data to show them, hey, these are the numbers that show, this is going to be the better tailored strategy for the goal that you're looking for. I feel like sometimes some potential clients are really interested in what we call vanity metrics. So seeing like impressions on posts, people liking posts. Yeah, that's great. But what we want to see if you're trying to make sales is people actually buying your products or buying your services. And so sometimes, trying to match up the wants and needs can be really difficult, and trying to convince them otherwise can be really difficult. And I'm sure this is a challenge for everyone in a similar position to ourselves, but try to test new marketing strategies or marketing efforts on clients when they're new. So for example, like in the last year or two, TikTok has really like blown up, right? And so trying to sell a TikTok campaign at the very beginning of, say, this year or even last year was quite a challenge because no one had really heard of it. It wasn't blowing up just as much just yet. And so trying to convince a new client, hey, TikTok could be a good thing for you when you don't have any case studies and you haven't really tested it yourself can be challenging. And so one of the ways that we've kind of overcome this is by testing it on ourselves first, so that we know how, a new platform might work, so that if we do sell it to a client, we can say, okay, we've actually tested it out and we do know, the ins and outs of this. But of course, we do understand that this is a new strategy. And so it can be a little bit daunting for a new client too.
That makes a lot of sense. So part of your role, Irene, is also strategy and planning with new clients. How does that fit in with new business development?
So when we go through the discovery process, I have to be certain that the services we're pitching to the client matches their goals and matches our team's capabilities. So I do have to think about, what is the strategy that we're going with and what is actually going to work for this client and what's going to work with our team. Like I had mentioned before, I don't want to sell something that our team is not happy to, work on a campaign with. So it's really important for me to kind of make sure that we're all on the same page when we plan this strategy, so that when we do actually sell this particular contract or campaign, it's reaching the client's goals as well as reaching, the capabilities of our team. And so making sure that we do that ensures the longevity of the client and the success of the campaign.
Mm-hmm. And what types of things do you do for strategy planning, either with new clients or existing clients when they're changing direction or have a new product or anything like that?
So one of the things, like I had mentioned before, even before we talk to a potential client, we do all of that preliminary research. We want to see what they are doing, what they're not doing, and what they could be doing better. And that kind of gives us a better understanding as to what type of strategy we want to think about. I think when we're talking to clients, it can be difficult to assess everything because we can't see everything that's behind the scenes in their analytics and all that types of stuff. But what we want to do is check what they're currently doing. If it's not working, what they could be doing better, or maybe they need to be pivoting their strategy all the way, seeing which platforms work best. If you're targeting a particular audience persona, like say, for example, if you're targeting older people, being on TikTok might not be the best use of your time, and just thinking about things like that. What we want to know is their audience and their goals, and that helps us to plan that strategy and know which marketing efforts would work better than others.
Mm-hmm. How about when you are working with them on their strategy and making sure that they're building in that capability for testing and knowing that your strategy will change and see what works? How do you temper clients for that at the beginning?
So like I mentioned, we mentioned that communication is really, really important. And so one of the things that we provide to our clients is monthly reporting. And actually the monthly reports that we provide are live reports. So really our clients can go in there and change the dates whenever they want, and it will show them, what's working, what isn't working. And the idea is that when we speak to our clients, we provide them with insights. We say, hey, this particular strategy is working really well because of X, Y, and Z, or this particular strategy isn't working very well because of X, Y, and Z. And here's what we'll do to mitigate what isn't working. And so sometimes it can be challenging to, say to a client, hey, your SEO strategy that we thought was going to work isn't going so great. And we think maybe if we was to implement something like SEM, that might actually get you the results that you're looking for. And oftentimes our clients at that point are pretty trustworthy of us. So those conversations typically go quite smoothly. But I can understand it from the client's perspective that could be a bit daunting to be like, oh my God, we're changing strategy. And, what if this doesn't work as well? But what we like to do is provide the data and provide the insights to say, okay, we do have the numbers to show that this is or this isn't working. And that's the reason why we're changing strategies, or that's the reason why we're doubling down on this particular strategy.
Mm-hmm. We like clients that come to us with that testing appetite, that they know they're not asking us for what's the one thing we can do that will make their business grow. It's like, here's what we think. And then we'll just, every week we'll talk, and every week we'll get better and change and grow and optimize. And we want clients that have that appetite for that. So
yeah, absolutely. And I think at the beginning of any campaign you start, you need to kind of have that open-mindedness, because especially if you're just starting a campaign for the first time, you've never run any marketing, you've never worked with an agency, then it's always good to have that kind of open mind to be like, okay, things might change a little bit at the beginning, but there is going to come a time when everything sort of levels out, and then you just kind of go straight ahead with it, you know?
Mm-hmm. So do you have any tips for agencies that are helping their clients plan? Any do's or don'ts?
Yes, I do have some do's and I do have some don'ts, that's for sure. So with some do's, listen to your clients' needs and focus on their goals. Their goals are what's going to drive your campaign. And additionally, when you are focusing on those goals, when you're communicating with your clients, you can be like, hey, this is the reason why we chose this strategy. This is the reason why we chose this marketing effort, because your goal was X, Y, and Z. And you can kind of tie it back to those qualitative and quantitative goals that they have. Additionally, consult with your team to gauge capabilities. I talk about this a lot, but it's really, really important to not only make sure that our team is happy with what we're selling, but also just to have interpersonal relationships with your team and have, foster good relationships within your team. I don't want to be continuously selling something that isn't right for the team, and then they're frustrated with me, and it doesn't really foster a good relationship. So making sure that your team is happy with what you're selling, and, being open-minded about the strategies, and maybe your team has something completely different in mind to what you thought at the very beginning, and just being open to that. Setting up clear reporting. Oh my God, reporting is so important. Making sure that you're being clear with your clients about, what is working, what isn't working, and be transparent. If something isn't working, you need to tell that to your client. And, that might not necessarily look good to you. It might, be a bit humiliating in some instances, but it's always good to be transparent with your client. And I think they'll appreciate the transparency over, you trying to dodge and dive when things aren't working, A couple of don'ts. Don't forget about seasonality. So marketing strategies can change from season to season. A good example is we have some education clients, and of course, around I think it's around March-ish time, they're usually thinking about enrollment, and so the messaging completely changes to enrolling new students and teaching parents about the schools. And then obviously during the summer period, when all the kids are off school, it's not really the same vibe, And so just making sure the seasons are important and you're thinking about those when you are creating this strategy. And yeah, don't be afraid to pull a full 180 on a strategy if it isn't working. If it isn't working, you need to have those numbers to prove it, and you need to have data to prove why you think another strategy would work better. And I think it's important to always pivot. Like we've been experiencing during COVID, we've had to pivot a lot of different things, and I'm sure different clients have had to pivot things within their own businesses too. And so we just have to be ready to be kind of nimble and flexible with that too.
Mm-hmm. Well, what do you see impacting your business the most in the next few years, whether it's positive or negative?
Cool. There's a lot of things. So positively, actually, since COVID, so many more businesses are now online. And so as a digital marketing agency, that kind of works to our favors. So there's a lot more opportunities and more open mindset for people to invest in online marketing, because they see the benefits of it. If your store has to close and you now have to only sell online, that's something that you need to consider. And I think people are becoming a lot more open-minded to investing in those types of online strategies. I guess in a negative way is changes to privacy and the imminent removal of third-party cookies. I think that's going to be really hard for us to track people around the internet. So serving right ads to the right people at the right time can become challenging. And honestly, I kind of foresee those privacy concerns consistently changing. So making sure that we're on top of it is going to be key to ensuring that we can track these campaigns and track users and make sure that we're serving the right ads to the right people.
Yeah. And that you're doing the right thing so that you're not violating any terms of service or anything like that.
Yeah.
GDPR. That's a scary thing.
Right.
What trends are you excited about right now?
So I'm actually really excited about video. It's so important right now. And it's exciting to see how we can be using it for clients in all different industries. We're noticing more and more that internet users are digesting shorter and shorter pieces of videos. So I remember like 5 years ago, like maybe long YouTube videos were a thing. And then now it's YouTube Shorts, and now it's TikToks, and it's Instagram Reels, and it's just getting shorter and shorter. So it's trying to learn how to disseminate information in maybe 5 seconds. That's all you get. And, people's attention span is really, really small. So trying to learn how to disseminate information in a really short period of time in a video, that's something new and challenging, but it's exciting to work with.
Mm-hmm. So what would you tell someone who's new in marketing or advertising, just starting out, maybe a recent college grad or someone that's going to college for it? What advice would you give them?
Yeah. So I'm not sure if this is entirely true, but I've heard that marketing degrees don't typically focus too much on the digital realm. I haven't been in university for a while, so I could be wrong. I did a
I've heard that
philosophy
too.
degree. Yeah, so I think one of the things is to research digital marketing. There's so many different areas like SEO, digital ads, affiliates, so many different areas. So just kind of doing the research into, what actually piques your interest. You don't want to be going into something that isn't really of interest for you. And the more you can specialize in one area, the better your chances are of securing a role in that area and in an area that you actually enjoy. There's also loads of free courses and guides online to teach you about different types of marketing as well. I know HubSpot has its own like full academy, which is always a great starting point.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing, learn the lingo. Oh my God, it took me a while to learn all the different marketing acronyms and jargon. That could be a little bit intimidating and difficult to understand. But once you kind of learn all those different acronyms like ROAS and ROI and all that kind of stuff, it does really help when you are doing your research and you are learning about marketing. I would start off a couple of ways, maybe making your own website, seeing if web design is something that you can do. There's free platforms that let you do that. Install Google Analytics on your website, get more familiar with what those metrics are. Turning your personal Instagram account into a business account, it gives you insights into the analytics. You can also try using the platform is called Later to see how you can schedule posts. And so that kind of gives you an insight into how a social media marketer might operate. And try out some design work on Canva. It's free, I believe, for the basic package. And so just trying out some design work, I think those are a couple of good ways to get started and kind of dip your toes in.
Mm-hmm. I like that. I like to tell people to try a lot of things too. So that it makes a lot of sense. You go to school for 4 years, you pay all of this money and you think you want to do something and then you go and try it and you're like, oh, maybe this wasn't for me.
I have a philosophy degree. I mean, I don't know.
So before we close out, quick lightning round. What is your favorite pitch that you've worked on?
Oh, I have two. Can I do two?
Sure.
Okay, so I worked on a pitch for a rum company, which was super exciting because I actually enjoy their rum anyway. And so we did lots of different creative, we created animations, we did videos. We actually went to one of my teammates' houses to do some videos and photography because he had the right aesthetic for what we was looking for. We did brand messaging, a bunch of different other stuff. It was just really exciting to kind of let the creative juices flow a little bit because I believe in my role, while I'm not necessarily a creative person in my role, I do have creative instincts. And so it was fun to kind of let those loose a little bit. Similarly, we did a pitch for a clothing and accessories store here in New Orleans. So we got to do lots of creative again. So we did some TikTok videos. We went into the store. I actually got this shirt from that store, actually. So
nice.
We took some pictures and it was really, really exciting to just let those creative juices flow again and, think of different ideas that would impress the client.
That's fun. That's always fun. And I like when you can become a customer.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not just pitching this. I love it.
This is for work.
Yes. I hope they gave you an employee discount.
Oh, I wish I should have asked.
What's your favorite social media platform?
Definitely Instagram and Pinterest. I love Instagram. I'm probably on the thing more than I should be, but I just love looking at food and looking at gardening tips and things like that. Same with Pinterest. Pinterest is really good to show you the right blogs and stuff like that. And I've heard of so many different bloggers utilizing Pinterest to really blow up the traffic on their website. So I think Pinterest is great for bloggers and for content creators who are creating content that's more, long form written content. I like to cook. So I like to read up some different recipes and things like that.
Yeah. Read about the life story of the person who wrote the recipe first.
That's all SEO. That's all SEO. It's necessary.
Exactly. What's your favorite thing to listen to while you're working?
Funnily enough, my work playlists are similar to like my gym workout playlists. Like I need something upbeat to kind of keep me motivated and keep me going. Because if I don't have something upbeat and I have something too mellow, I get distracted easily. So I need something like really quick.
Yeah. Keeps you like in the zone. Well,
Yeah.
tell our listeners where they can find you if they want more content from Irene.
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm thinking that you're going to put that in the chat below or something like that. Find me on LinkedIn. I'm also on the Online Optimism website if you want to, reach out to me directly. But yeah, this has been so much fun.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. I had a great time speaking with you, and hopefully we can keep in touch and keep trading tips.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much.
Thanks. So, for this month's Agency Horror Stories, I dug deep in the vault of my experiences and thought about kind of the crazy cast of characters that I've worked with in the past. And as someone who spent their entire career in an agency, as you all probably know, we have a lot of funny people that you come across, whether they're creative people, production people, sometimes client side, crazy characters that come into your life for a reason, I guess. So we had one guy, this was probably about 15 years ago, and he came into the agency that I was working for as a PR person. And he had moved here from Canada, which, as you may or may not know, is not very far from us, but he moved from about 3 hours north in Canada. So it wasn't just a hop over the border. He was pretty far away. Moved to the US, said that he had owned his own public relations agency, that he had graduated from the Wharton School of Business. He had these excellent references and resume. And so the agency owner at the time was like, this is great. He's going to do great things. Well, very soon after he started, we were all getting a little suspicious. He just did some odd things. Like one time he brought in a garbage bag full of old suits and gave it to one of my coworkers, thought that he could use them. Just things like that. Was buying gifts for people, but really didn't really maintain a connection with a lot of people, but was just kind of a strange guy. And we found out through looking into his things that he really wasn't who he said he was. There was no record of him at the Wharton School of Business. His agency that he supposedly owned had never existed, all of these things. And so when the agency owner confronted him about this about a month in and said, it seems like, the things you said on your resume weren't truthful, he claimed to be in the witness protection program and said that he could prove it, but he drove away that day and we never heard from him again. And so, well, it's not really a horror story that ended badly. It was very strange and funny. And I just wanted to share it here because I thought about it the other day and thought it would be a fun story of an agency character. So again, I'd love to hear everyone's agency horror stories, whether you had a bad pitch, crazy client, crazy coworker. So send me an email or reach out to me on LinkedIn or Twitter. I'd love to hear your tales. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Agency Scoop. If you liked what you heard, you can subscribe so you don't miss a show. You can also find us on the Cypress North YouTube channel or follow the Agency Scoop on Twitter and LinkedIn. I'd love to hear your ideas for future topics. See you next time on the Agency Scoop.